This is Awakening. I'm Chandra Prasad, and we welcome our viewers around the world. The topic for the day is Secrets of Happiness. And to talk about Secrets of Happiness, I have here with me a religious scholar and motivational speaker, Shree Santa Poudel. Santa Ji, let me welcome you on the show.
Thank you.
Happiness. Happiness demands manifestation, and there are a lot of talks about happiness. And life, of course, is full of memories that are built in over time by manifestation, on experience, choices, and DNA. So, my first question to you is, what creates happiness, or what is happiness?
Let me take you back a little bit. When there are 350 million people suffering from depression according to WHO, and a lot of people struggling to be happy in their lives, the question comes naturally that there should be some secrets to happiness, right? So we'll go back to that, like what are the secrets? But before that, let's define happiness. It basically has two components, but it is not about defining it, it's about experience. When we pass the test, when we find a job that we wanted, or when we met a person that we wanted to meet, or things of that nature. When we get what we wanted, we get that positive vibe, positive emotion. That's what we call happiness. But it also has another component, that is to have a sense of satisfaction about the direction of your life. So overall satisfaction about your life and the constant experience of positive emotions such as love, joy, exuberance, contentment about lives is what generally happiness is defined by. It is something that we all strive for or look for, and it is the end result of all our endeavors. Whatever we do, whatever we're doing right now is for that purpose, right? I want to be a doctor because it helps me make a lot of money. With a lot of money I can buy the things I want, and then I can live a happy life. Because for a lot of people happiness is having the things we want. So all the efforts, regardless of what we do, it is for happiness. But there are different views about what creates happiness or what gives people happiness. For some people it is success. For a lot of people, I would say. For some people it is prestige, some people it is recognition, for some people it is attention, for some people it is wealth, right? It can be contradictory sometimes too, right? Because the same thing that gives me happiness may give you some sorrow. Like for some people, those who drink alcohol, for instance, it is fun for them, it gives them happiness. For someone who does not drink like me, it is something that does not give me happiness, or I want to refrain from drinking. So the same thing that gives happiness for one person may give unpleasantness for the other. So what creates happiness or what gives happiness to people they have divergent things about it. People have different views about what gives them happiness. But it is good to be happy, right? Because Cynthia Nims, one of the authors, says nobody cares if you are miserable, so you might as well be happy. So just be happy, and it feels good to have those positive emotions and have the satisfaction in life.
Some people are always happy. Is that their DNA?
Not that they are always happy. There are circumstances in life that are unavoidable and that definitely make us unhappy. But how we project ourselves in those situations and how we define those situations, our perspectives on circumstances differ. For some people, failure is a chance for them to understand what didn't work, to gain experience. And for some people, failure is the end of the world. Some people learn from their mistakes and failures, some people give up. So that is what, according to one of the Harvard professor, Dan Gilbert, the way we define happiness. One is natural happiness that comes when we get what we want. And there is another one that is called synthetic happiness. That is how we interpret when we don't get what we want. but still be positive about it and learn from it. So those people who can synthesize happiness on their own internally, they seem to enjoy their lives in different circumstances. As you said, some people that always look happy, those are the people who can synthesize, because there's not a single family in the world who haven't lost their father or son, or haven't lost anybody in their families, though there are not probably that many people who haven't struggled financially or emotionally or psychologically in their lives. So struggles are the parts of life, and we do not always get what we want, but having a positive perspective even in times when we didn't get what we want. Some people have those built-in characteristics in them, synthesizing happiness. Those are the people that are always happy, but a lot of people struggle with that.
So happiness is derived by events, but some people have a choice how to react on it.
Yeah, so we talked about one of the quotations, right? Life
Yeah.
is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of what you make out of it.
Yeah.
The same situation can be interpreted as a learning experience, and sometimes that the same incident can be interpreted as some failure or something undesired incident or circumstance. So how you interpret
Yeah.
the incident matters whether you enjoy your life or you live your life joyfully or not.
So it's totally up to you and your choice.
A lot of times it is.
Okay.
And there are some skills you can master, how you program your mind, because it is all in the mind, right? So some people may enjoy the rainfall. Some people are probably fearful of the rainfall. I mean, those having experience of flooding, how would they react when there is a heavy rainfall? They would probably panic. And some people living in the desert, like in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, when there's a rainfall, what would they do? Probably they would go and dance in the street.
Yeah.
So it is the same rainfall, but how you interpret, how your previous experience dictate how you interpret those things are different. So it's again up to you and your mind how you synthesize happiness or how you interpret the events.
So happiness, and then there is the other side of it, which is the sorrow, pain, suffering. If there is no suffering, there is no pain, how would we measure happiness?
That's the reality of life, because the world that we live in is the world of duality, right? We do not experience the brightness if there is no darkness. There is sorrow, that's why we feel happy when things go according to our plan or our wishes. So in the world of duality, one opposite complement the other. If there is no darkness, you don't realize how valuable it is to have that sunrise. So if there is no sorrow, there is no happiness. So this world, we go through both circumstances, sorrow and happiness. That's why it is valuable that when something goes well, we are elated, we are joyful. So it is absolutely normal to have that duality and experience happiness when we go through sorrow, some traumatic experience, and when we get out of it and have some pleasant experience, we become happy. So it is natural.
Some people argue that happiness is childish, happiness is young, but inner peace that actually people are seeking in spirituality, which is more matured, more contained, small, more positive way of vibe. Are they correct, or is that?
It is stated that happiness is ephemeral, right? Is temporary.
Correct.
And in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says in chapter 2, verse number 56, that those people who can transcend the pain of sorrow, pain of bad things happening to you, if you can transcend both happiness and sadness and the consequences of your actions and be unaffected by those, you find peace in any circumstance, right? So inner peace is of a higher level. We can call it bliss. There is happiness, there is satisfaction, there is contentment, and it is long lasting. So inner peace is something that spiritual people usually search. But a lot of people, there are a lot of myths about happiness. We'll probably talk about that in a while. a lot of people don't talk about inner peace. They talk about, happiness, and they measure it by how successful you are or how wealthy you are, and they may contribute to your happiness to a certain level. But a lot of people are not looking for inner peace. They are looking for happiness, and for them, happiness is a goal, right? So let's say, oh, I'll be happy when I have a job I want. I'll be happy when I have a romantic partner that I fell in love with, when I have a dream job, or when I have a career that I want, or things of that nature. So people are not realistically looking for inner peace. They're looking for happiness, and they're searching for happiness in those external accumulations or external things that people think give them happiness. So people are not looking for inner peace in a way.
So fame, prestige, being rich, having decent life, convenient life are the sources of happiness. Then let's talk about few let's say 100 years ago, even a royalty could not afford what we are having now. Then we should be happy always, right? But we are not.
That's the question that triggers the mind of a lot of people these days, that we have a lot of things in our disposal and we are still not happy. Like you said, the royalties could not afford probably brand new Mercedes Benz. Now we can drive those cars, right, and we can buy a lot of things with what we have. So a lot of people have this myth that happiness comes from wealth and success. To a certain level, it gives comfort, and to have a car that we want or a job we want gives them a sense of happiness and comfort and confidence. But it is not the end of the story, that with all these things, we may still lack something, that we may find ourselves in the hole of depression and sadness. Justin Bieber, right? A young heartthrob singer, millions and millions of followers worldwide. He recently canceled his world tour, and he said that depression got the best of me. So what did he lack? He could buy everything he wanted. He could buy the best of the cars. He could marry a most beautiful women in the world. He could pretty much get anything he wanted, but he still fell victim to depression, right? DeMar DeRozan, one of the NBA players who plays for San Antonio Spurs, now he used to play for Toronto Raptors. He makes millions of dollars every year. He is one of the best players, basketball players. And he got into depression too. And then somebody asked him, hey, you can buy anything you want. Why are you still unhappy? Why you got depressed? And he said, I wish everyone in the world was rich so that they would realize money is not everything. So simply saying that, money makes me happy or rich people are happier is a myth, debunked a long time ago. So we need money to live a comfortable life, a happy life, but it is not guaranteed to make us happy. There are other myths too. Some people say that the best year of my life are over, when they grow old and their, body gets wrinkled and they have some gray hair and then they lose their teeth. They feel like the best years of their lives are over. But according to some of the research, older people are found to be more happy. They are found to be happier and more mature because they have short remaining life, right? So their perspective on life changes and they make the most out of it. So, right now I may feel like my teenage years, man. Like I was in college, I didn't have to worry about my job or my career. When I was young, my mom and my dad would cook everything for me and I didn't have to do anything. Those days were the best days of my life, I could say that. But it does not have to be determined by how old we are, because a lot of times, we make happiness our goal. I will be happy when I get this. I'll be happy when I get there. And by the time we get there, we seek for something else. Yeah. The insatiable desires that we have within us, and there's a concept called impact bias.
We every time change the goal.
Yeah, the goal changes every time, and what happens is that we begin to take things for granted. That's called hedonic adaptation, right? I thought having a brand new, let's say, Mercedes-Benz would make me happier or make me the happiest person in the world. When I didn't have that and I would have to struggle so much, work hard to get there, you know, that was my goal. And when I have that, what happens? I pursue something else that does not make me happy for long. So some people say that happiness comes from getting married to the person that we want, to a right person. But researchers have found that the happiness that comes from marriage lasts pretty much for a couple of years. After that, getting married does not necessarily make you happier. Landing our dreams up, a lot of people, that's the goal in their lives, and thinking that, hey, if I make a 6-digit salary, I'll be happier. But a lot of people, millionaires and those people making all that money, they find themselves going into the yoga school and meditation sessions, and they practice all these things just to calm their mind. So this hedonic adaptation, that surprisingly marvelous skill that we have to be habituated to the situations, that impacts. And a lot of us have the fears of our health and well-being, right? When we grow kind of older, we have that what if scenario, worst case scenarios, like what if I get sick, what if I get cancer, and things of that nature. And I read one of the book by the book is called Conversation with God. It's written by Neil Donald Walsh. According to him, he conversed with God, and God responds to his questions. We are in the state of constant worries. We're worried all the time. He gives the example, like a guy goes to his girlfriend, or the girl that he likes, and he is trying to propose to her. He's about to say, I love you to her. And when he's saying that, there's a fear in his mind whether he would get the reciprocal response from the girl, like, I love you to those 4 words. And even when he hears those words, luckily, he has a fear in his mind that what if that love, whether that love would last for long or not, whether she would love you exactly as you do to her, whether there's a reciprocity of love in between you guys, and whether it's long lasting or not. So all these myths about happiness makes us believe in wrong things and make it a goal. But when happiness becomes a direction and you make a journey out of it instead of making it a goal, because when you make it a goal, then in between you and your goal, the process is you don't get to enjoy it. But when you get to enjoy small things, going out in the nature, having fun, enjoy doing things, whatever it is that you do, right? Enjoy the processes. Then happiness becomes a direction, happiness becomes a journey. But for a lot of people, okay, I'll become a millionaire and then I'll be happy. I won't be happy until I get married to that girl. Make it a goal, it is far-fetched and we cannot be happy. That is why make it a journey, make it a direction in your life. Don't live on these myths. So from this understanding, it is fact that happiness comes from within you. It's the happiness that comes from external sources, they're temporary, they're ephemeral. So you gotta get out of these myths to enjoy, to tap into the source of happiness that is within you.
So when we talk about happiness, there is this thing, mind comes into my mind. There is a conscious mind and there is subconscious mind, and then there is a critical faculty in between. So conscious mind is more willpower, and then subconscious mind hidden behind, which is pre-recorded, recorded, based on our experience and from our childhood. So what mind plays a role in one's being happy versus not happy? And it is not normal to show unhappiness when things don't go the way you want.
When we're talking about happiness, we're not talking about laughing all the time, 24 hours a day are the times that we are awake. Happiness is a general feeling, the overwhelming feeling that, hey, my life is heading in the right direction. my life is worth living, the feeling that we have. In between that, it is okay to be upset about not landing a job that you wanted, right? Not being in a equal terms with your spouse, right? Not having in a good relationship with your friends, having an argument with your boss. Things of that nature may happen, and it is okay to be upset about it for a while. But what you make out of it in a longer run, whether you give into those situations and feel hopeless, or get some lesson out of it and make the most out of it, like synthesizing happiness out of it. So let me give you an example. My Guruji, my spiritual master, once went to see a devotee in a hospital. He had a broken leg because he got into an accident in a motorbike. So my Guruji said when he went to see him in a hospital, he was all joyful and he was all smiling. He was not that upset about what happened to him. And Guruji was like, "Oh, I'm sorry it happened to you. Well, pray to, Raji, we pray to Lord for your quick recovery and all that." And he said, no, Guruji, I'm all good. I wanted to chant the mantras of Lord for a long time. And when I was okay, I was busy in all these things, household chores, about my job and businesses and all that. I could not do what I wanted. Now I'm bedridden for a month. I can chant as many mantras as I want. And he looked perfectly happy. The same situation, some people would be like, "Oh Lord, what happened to me? I broke my leg. Now I cannot go to my job. I may lose my job. My boss would be mad at me," and things of that nature, right? So how you interpret the situation. So happiness is all in this machine. But the issue with mind is not programmed, it's not wired to synthesize happiness. It protects us from unwanted circumstances. It asks us to respond to dangerous situations, but it is not wired to make us believe that things can be interpreted in a way, synthesizing it and make positive out of everything. And he could do that. So it is all in the mind. It is, and some people are more predisposed to being happy than the others. So sometimes you see people that are always cheerful, always joyful, and some people are always morose and sad, and as if they have no life to live for, and they're upset about things. They always make negative comments and things of that nature. So it is all in the mind. But the problem with mind is, like I said before, there's no manual to it, right? And there's the television, anything that you make, electronical things, electronics, right? They come with manual, like 5 pages, 10 pages long manual, but the most critical element that we have, the organ that we have, it does not have the manual. And once you learn how to program it in such a way that you synthesize happiness, then things change for good.
We briefly touched on genetic gene. Some people call it DNA also. Can you elaborate more on genetic role of someone's being happy?
It is a recent phenomenon that a lot of research are being done about how much genes or our genetics impact how happy we become. The findings are not clear, they are patchy at best, but there has been a huge research that comprises more than 200,000 people involving 190 researchers, 140 research centers, and 17 countries involved. They have found that there are 3 genetic variants associated with how happy a person feels or thinks about his or her life. There are 2 genes harboring variants associated with depressive symptoms and 11 genes that are associated with neuroticism. So all of us have these genes, but which genes become predominant probably determines how happy or sad we become in situations. But genetics or the genes still have the story. Happiness is a skill that we can learn, but it is a fact that happiness is elusive to many people in the world today. Like I said earlier, our brains are evolved to survive and protect ourselves in situations that we find difficult for us, or they help us survive in situations. But they do not deal with, they are not wired to synthesize happiness in a way. So when we cultivate happiness by bringing in positivity in our lives and synthesize those so-called difficult moments, then I think the impact of genes or genetics can be at least undermined, or they can be limited. So it is not the full story how much genes impact, but like I said, how motivated can we be, how happy can we be. There are some glands and hormones that the body produces, but again, it is a skill that we can learn, and when we bring in that positivity and cultivate some of the skills that we will talk about in a bit, list out some of those things that we can do to be happy, I think that the impact of genes can be minimized for sure.
So what about the gender? Does gender play any role on someone's being happy? Let's say, for example, women are more happier than men. That's what I heard about. Is that true?
I mean, there have been research on different categories, whether age plays into it, race plays into it, gender plays into it. Like I said again, these are not significant factors in determining whether we become happy or we choose to be happy or not in situations. I mean, the research have probably found that women are probably happier than men are, because for the historical time, men are involved in outside work and all that, and they have more pressures. I'm not saying that that is still the case. But again, you don't have to be a female to be happy, I mean, to be honest with you. And age should not determine, although the findings have found that older people are happier. But right now, where I'm sitting, I may say that, hey, my teenage years were the best years of my life because I didn't have to worry about anything. So again, it's not about age or gender or race or genes. It's about cultivating that habit and synthesizing circumstances to feel better about our life and ourselves. When we do that, I think,
So again, I would like to come back to the mind again, and then our subconscious mind. These habits that we built over time, and these are recorded in our subconscious mind. The environment where we're brought up, a man versus woman, all genders. The habits that we built and recorded in our subconscious mind, does that play a role? Someone's being happy or not happy?
Yes, of course.
Right.
If you had some traumatic experience, if this building starts shaking right now, I would probably run to my life, because I experienced that earthquake in Nepal when that happened in 2015. Because that past experience that is now recorded in my subconscious mind makes me believe that any shake, any tremor is the earthquake, and I get to run for life. So these past experiences that are built over time, our experiences, the culture that we are brought in, our socialization and things of that nature impact how we react to situations, right? Let's say I don't like potato because one time I had it, I had a fever. Now, that made me believe that eating potato makes me sick again. So that experience, hey, if I see potato in my vegetable, I may not like it. Things of that nature. Our past experience dictate how we interpret the situations and whether we choose to synthesize it or give into that. So some people who have experienced drowning, they would fear water. If somebody had gone through electric shock, when lightning strikes, they would be fearful of, the impending danger. But like I said, the impact bias that I talked about, the term, we overestimate the effect or the impact of those situations or circumstances. A lot of people do that and then they give in to that. Like a lot of people commit suicide when they fail in romantic relationship, when they fail their exams, when they fail into their job search, because they think that the impact of those circumstances would be way bigger, right? But research have found that even if you lose your significant other in a matter of 3 or 6 months, you would forget all over that. You would not have the memory of that. Time heals everything. and the impact of those circumstances would be substantially lower as time goes by. But we, when we're in the situation, that's why, like, when bad things happen, when we fail, when we have the habit of synthesizing it, it gradually heals anyway. So we learn to live happily. So impact bias is one of the worst things that happens to us, right? And we hold on to things that we should not hold on to, like in relationships and things of that nature, and we're not happy. But divorced people are as happy as married people because they got out of that troubled relationship, right? You don't have to be married to be happy, like we talked about the myth. And poor people can be equally or more happy than, or happier than rich people. It is all in the mind.
The study shows that the people winning jackpots, lotteries, they became more, unhappy even after winning big jackpots and all that. It doesn't matter, right? But talking about gender again, women are more emotional than men, and this happiness comes from this emotion, right? People are more emotional. They cry more. They have they easily get unhappy. They feel pain, they feel sorrow. How you balance this?
I mean, we talked about emotions, I think, on our earlier episode. It is okay to feel disappointed. It is okay to cry. It is okay to be sad. It is just that how long do you let it linger in your mind?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
If you cry for a moment, get over it, and then get onto your things, it is better than holding onto it and be worried about it, right? So women are more prone to showing their emotional side, in intensity, in terms of intensity and timing, but they let it out and then they forget all about it and then they move on. We guys, we are even told that we cannot cry, right? Men don't cry. And then we hold on to those negative feelings and emotions and we're stuck by it. So it is probably why the research have found that women are happier than men. But it is okay to let out your emotions and feel upset every now and then.
We had a very extensive discussion on happiness, inner peace, and a lot of other, topics related to happiness. But we're about to wrap up the program for today. But what is the secrets to the happiness actually?
There are no secrets. Everyone knows what makes them happy. There are certain things that we can cultivate in ourselves that generally make us happier for a long term. I'll give you some of the tips that may help you and the viewers watching us to be happy. The most important thing is to just be yourself. A lot of times the key to our happiness is on somebody else, is with somebody else. When someone says good things about us, that brings us happiness. We see a smile in our face. And when someone criticizes us, instantaneously we become upset. So just be yourself. All these celebrities and all these successful people, they go through a lot of stress and anxieties in their lives because they have this pressure to maintain themselves, their composure in front of all these people that reward them with compliments and sometimes criticize them for their looks and then their weight and things of that nature. When you can just be yourself and keep that key of happiness to yourself, then that is the most important thing that you can do to be happy. Second thing I practice every now and then, spend time in nature. Go on a walk, go to the park, see the water, see the fishes swimming, see the birds flying, things of that nature, and be one with nature. That relieves us from a lot of stress and anxieties that we face every day in this world where everything is so fast-paced and you gotta be always active and do things. And some other things, accept imperfections, because failures happen, you do not always get what you want. And we understood that getting what you want may not always make you happy, because if that was the case, Justin Bieber would not be suffering from depression, because we said what he has and what he can buy with what he has. Establish meaningful relationships. Stop worrying about what happens, because the worst case scenarios, that we program in our mind, oh, if this happens, I lose everything, things of that nature impact behind us, because the effect of those situations would not be as devastating as we imagine it to be. People get over the traumas, the sufferings and sadness over time. It heals. Cultivate gratitude for your life and what God has given to you. If you believe in God, do what you want, do what you truly love. If you love painting, do that in your spare time. If you love singing, if you're into music, if you're into dancing, do that every now and then when you have time, so you relieve your pressure, you relieve your stress from those situations that come from the work pressures and things of that nature. And practice mindfulness. Live a life where you pay attention to everything, but you choose to remain unaffected. So in summary, finding happiness is tough. It's not that we do not find contentment, and if we are not, or we don't get elated in situations when we get what we want, but sustaining that is really hard. So finding happiness is tough. Sustaining it is tougher. But when we talk about happiness, there is another term we touched on that. We call it inner peace, transcending the consequence of our actions. We are unaffected by whether it goes well or bad, whether we get what we want or what we do not get. When we can transcend and rise above it, right? That's the point we always want to be. So we are not in a pursuit of happiness. We are in a pursuit of this. We are in pursuit of that inner peace. We want to be unaffected by situations. We always want to be joyful. We always want to be in a state of exuberance, living life to its full potential. That should be the target of our life. That should be the goal of life. So these tips may help you, but to get that inner peace, you should practice spirituality. There is nothing else that helps more than spirituality.
So the only the everlasting happiness can take us towards the inner peace. What would be akin to peace or inner peace, right?
So search for that.
Yeah. So with that said, thank you for everything that all the talk that we had today. Thank you for coming, and thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next episode. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you.